To our top story this morning, 5 people are dead and several others are wounded after a gunman opened fire inside the Capital Gazette newsroom in Annapolis, Maryland. New this morning, the suspect has now been charged with 5 counts of murder and he is due in court later this morning. Reporters who were inside the building at the time say the gunman shot through a glass door and then entered the building. When authorities got there, they immediately entered the building and then took that shooter into custody. We've decided not to broadcast the shooter's name. He's a 38-year-old man who sued the paper for defamation back in 2012 and then lost the case. Investigators say the Gazette was threatened on social media prior to the shooting, but it's still unclear if those threats are connected to the attack. Meanwhile, staffers and fellow journalists at the Capital Gazette had to push through their grief and still publish a story about their colleagues and one of the deadliest attacks on journalists in U.S. history. Here's more of what happened through their eyes. During an active shooter situation, we all fear the worst.
Several shots have been fired, possible shotgun. At least 10 shots heard.
That was the reality for journalists at the Capital Gazette newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland, reporting the horrors they witnessed inside their own newsroom. Phil Davis, a reporter for the Capital Gazette, tweeting out his eyewitness account of what happened. Gunmen shot through the glass door to the office and opened fire on multiple employees. Can't say much more and don't want to declare anyone dead, but it's bad. 1 minute later, he tweeted, "There is nothing more terrifying than hearing multiple people get shots while you're under your desk and then hear the gunman reload." The newsroom intern Anthony Messenger tweeted, "Active shooter 888 Bestgate, please help us." 5 of their colleagues dead, many others injured, and everyone who works for that newspaper feeling immense grief. The newsroom yesterday, a crime scene. Staffers at the paper working at a nearby mall, working through tragedy. A reporter answering questions as best he could, tweeting, "I can tell you this, we are putting out a damn paper tomorrow." The Associated Press called on newspapers across the country to help the victims of the shooting so they can continue to cover their community and fight for freedom of the press. And this was tweeted out not too long ago by the Capital Gazette. Their cover page showing the 5 friends and colleagues they lost in the deadly attack on their newsroom. And coming up in our next half hour, we're going to have more on the journalists they lost.